William here at Patriot Containers. Sunday the 5th. I just got done making basically a basic common information about 20-foot containers. This video will be about 40 footers. And 20 foots and 40 foots are the most common size that you can buy without breaking the bank. Now, 40 footers, they can be 8.5 feet tall. That's called a standard height. And they could be 9.5 feet tall. That's called a high cube. There is various conditions you can buy of cargo containers. If you ever watch my YouTube channel, I expose the dark side of this industry of how what I call the Pinocchio rookie companies rip you guys off and sell you horrible containers, and you're kind of stuck with either keeping your horrible container that you did not want or losing thousands of dollars. And I'm the only one on YouTube that is exposing these companies of how they get away with it. I know this because I used to work for companies like this 13 years ago. I started Patriot Containers 11 years ago, and still to this date, I don't have a single complaint from an actual buyer. I do, however, have 3 complaints from 3 people that were mean to me on the phone, and I was mean back, but if you ever read them, they never bought a container from me. That's unheard of to have a record like that. And a lot of these Pinocchio rookie companies, they have thousands of complaints combined because they don't do with what's right for the customers. They do with what's right for their business. And Patriot Containers, from the start to your order to the end of your order where it's actually delivered, is done everything right. So back to 40-foot containers. You have 8.5 foot tall standard height. Your interior height is going to be 7 foot 10 inches. The containers will be 8 foot wide and 40 feet long. And again, 8.5 feet tall standard, 9.5 feet tall high cube. Now, I'm going to say something that I believe is true, but I've also talked to the shipping lines about this, and they do not agree with me. But I've bought and sold anywhere from 15 to 20,000 containers in 11 years, and I've delivered that many containers. Some of the most nicest used containers you can buy are standard heights. You're going to save money with having 8.5 feet tall instead of the high cube. I don't know why, but the nicest used containers I've ever delivered have always been 40-foot standards. I only have one logical reason to say, and I think the high cubes are used more on the oceans than the standards. You can get more products in them. I've mentioned this to the shipping lines that I buy from, and they totally disagree. So back to certain kinds of conditions to buy. You got new, which is, and let me tell you about new really quick. I used to be able to find standard height new ones and high cubes that are new ones. Along the years of me selling containers and listening to shipping lines on a daily basis, I've heard that eventually they're going to phase out new 40-foot standard height containers. I don't know if that has actually happened yet, but I'm only seeing 40-foot high cube new one trippers now. I don't see the shipping lines having the standard. So maybe that did happen and you can't find a 40-foot standard new one anymore. So new ones are called one trippers. It's going to be the most expensive 40-footer to buy, but it's worth the money if you kind of like stack up and pay the money for it. It's worth it once you're inside that container. Because there's nothing nicer. That's it. That's like buying a brand new car. And you know what's funny about containers? You buy a brand new car, and then the second you drive away, it's worth 30% less, maybe 50% less. It's not that way with containers. They hold their value. If you buy a nice container, it's much easier to resell it to somebody else. If you buy a rusty piece of junk, you're going to have 50 people that come by and say, hey, I don't want that. Well, that's because it's junky, and maybe you didn't want it either, or maybe you thought you wanted it and it served its purpose, but now you're like, I don't want this, I want a better one. Most people want containers that look good. So and I didn't say this in the 20-foot video. Shipping lines have inspections that these containers must go through to every location and depot that they go into. They can't just go in there and be put in there. I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Man, I just turned on my heater after all summer, so it's got that funny smell in my office, in the house. So when us container companies buy directly from shipping lines, there's categories of used. And that the worst one is damaged, and that means it's like a totaled car. The repairs cost so much to fix it that the repairs cost more than the container is worth. So it's sold as damaged. And then you have as is. As is old, retired, decommissioned containers. Some have holes, some do not. And then you have wind and watertight. Wind and watertight can be an as-is container with no holes. I was just talking to a shipping line yesterday about these Pinocchio rookie companies that rip you guys off. And they told me with what these companies are buying. What they buy is like kind of like a mystery. They don't know with what they're buying. They just buy cheap containers that aren't inspected, and so they sell it to you as wind and watertight, and then they buy the cheaper containers not knowing what you're actually going to get. So some of those containers, and they're basically sold as is because the driver gets there. Whatever the forklift operator goes and gets is what you're going to get. That's because they're purchasing containers that are such low standards that you can get the rustiest piece of junk with holes. And then these companies, they give you a boat patch, and then they say it's industry standards, but it's not. So wind and watertight, if you call me and you tell me wind and watertight is what you want, I'm going to tell you that that's a crappy container and you should not buy it. That's why I don't have any complaints, because I tell you the truth about these things. I'm not telling you, yes, you should buy this piece of crap and I'll give you a lifetime warranty, and if you don't like your container in 60 days, you can get a full refund. Well, Patriot Containers doesn't do that because it's all lies. If you want something to be sold to you correctly with the truth, you need to hear the truth and not the lies. So we're still sticking on the subject of 40 footers. After wind and watertight is cargo worthy, and then after cargo worthy is iicl. Those are the two grades that I recommend if you have care into your 8,000 pound container and you do care about your container. You should not buy damaged as is or wind and watertight. You should buy cargo worthy or iicl. Now, the Pinocchio rookie companies, they will tell you cargo worthy and then make you pay more money and then still send you that mystery grab bag container. And they have terms and conditions on their website to protect them from all. They basically sat down and said, hey, everything that we can screw up, how do we cover ourselves to where we are not responsible for anything that we've done wrong, but the customer is responsible and we get to keep their money. That's how they get away with it. So damaged as is, wind and watertight, cargo worthy, and then iicl. Those are the two real names of inspections that the shipping lines sell us cargo container companies. And so on an average, a 40 footer can weigh anywhere from like 7,900 pounds all the way up to like 8,700 pounds because of the standard height and then the high cube. Now, just like the 20s, you can find, so all the used ones, they're going to have doors at one end only and then 4 handles and then no lockbox. Just like the 20 footers that I was telling you in my earlier video, you can find a new one that has double doors at each end. You can find one that has doors on the 40-foot side. Those become very, very expensive. And just like I said in my last video, There's bad companies and then there's scammers. Scammers are where they steal your money and you never get anything at all. The bad companies sell junk, take forever to deliver, and you're totally screwed and you can't get out of it other than just being mad and angry and filing complaints about these companies. Those are the Pinocchio rookie companies. The scammers, so the container that has doors on the 40-foot side that open up, those can be very, very expensive. Like I'm talking about like $8,000 to $10,000. I've even seen them during COVID at $15,000. So nobody really wants to pay that much money. So what the scammers do is they market those containers because somebody that doesn't even want that will go, oh wow, that's so cool, I want that. You're going to call 10 different companies and they're all going to quote you $8, $9, $10, $11,000 plus delivery for this container, but then the scams will say we'll sell it to you for $3,000 to $5,000, and you're gonna think that you're gonna get a deal of a lifetime. And then the way to pay those scammers is they want Zelle, they want wire transfers, they want bank deposits, they want any form of payment where you cannot get your money back. I always advise when you're buying a cargo container to use a debit or credit card. I don't care if a company charges you 3%. Do it because it protects you from your money. Unfortunately, with the Pinocchio rookie companies, their terms and conditions on their website authorizes them to keep a cancellation fee, a restocking fee, keep your delivery money. If they have to come back and pick up your container, then they're going to keep your delivery money twice, and you can lose up to 75% of your money. So yes, back to the 40-footers. 20-foot and 40-foot containers is the most common size you can buy. When you start to get away from that, like you can buy a 30-footer, but it has to be made out of a 40-footer. You can buy a 10-footer, but they're more expensive than 20-footers. So to keep costs down, you're going to have to buy a 20 or a 40-foot container. And that's basically it. I mean, that's just the basic. And when we deliver a 40-foot container, and I don't think I mentioned this in my 20-foot video, we would show up with a trailer that has one 40-foot container. It tilts down. You have to load it, doors to the cab, doors to the back, and then depending with what do you want the doors to touch the ground first or last, and then the driver backs it down, pulls away, and the container slowly lowers to the ground. You can also do that with two 20-footers where he unloads one, drops it off, repositions his trailer, drops off the second 20. When I deliver single 20s, I've read a lot of complaints on the Pinocchio rookie companies where you have a customer that says, I need a 20-footer, but you have to deliver it on a 20-foot trailer or a 20-foot wrecker, which is basically a flatbed tow truck. And the customers have emphasized this to the company and said, you have to do it this way. And these Pinocchio rookie companies, they show up with a 40-foot trailer with your 20-footer on it, and they can't unload your container because they did not listen to your demands. And they leave, and then you have no container, but they kept your delivery money, a restocking fee, and a cancellation fee. That's why they're rookies, is because you have a salesperson that is not listening to their customers, and they're telling lies to make sales. So if you do order a 20-foot container from Patriot Containers, I'm going to show up with a 20-foot wrecker or a 20-foot trailer. I'd be an idiot to deliver a single 20 on a 40-foot trailer. It's just, you're making life difficult, not easy. Make everything easy, do the right thing, put your customers first, and sell good containers. That's it. So yeah, I'm going to do, so I did 20 foots today and then 40 foots. Maybe tomorrow I'll do like custom sizes, 45 footers or 10 footers and stuff like that. But anyways, guys, that's it. Have a good one. Bye.